Alright, so I had grand plans of doing this video, with like a better backdrop. When I'm out scouting my locations where I want to film these videos, hotel rooms with yellow walls really stands out as a really good place to film videos. It has great acoustics. It's super easy to color correct in the back end, and it just makes for a really aesthetically pleasing video. I had the grand envisions of doing like the Brandon McDonald kind of video, where I'm perched up in my chair. I have my light right here. I have my bourbon, which I don't really drink, so I have protein shake, and I would be smoking a cigar, something that I like doing, but unfortunately, I don't think the Fairfield Inn would appreciate it if I, torched up a cigar in the hotel. And so the reason that I bring Brandon McDonald up into this is he's one of the people that reached out to me after I shot Vegas and after I released my Vegas video, because if you guys have seen the videos from a couple weeks ago, I went to Lancaster and absolutely developed a terrible case of target panic. All right, so let's actually talk. What is target panic? Like, you're probably asking yourself if you've never experienced it, or maybe you have experienced it and you just don't know the name for it. But target panic can come in a variety of different flavors. You can get on the target and then the pin drops low and it sets low and you can't get it back up. It feels like someone's holding your arm down and nothing you can do is going to get that pin back up to the center of the target. Another flavor of target panic is the drive-by. Someone can't get it to the center. It's all over the place. So as the dot or the pin crosses the center, they just punch the snot out of the release and try to send the arrow. And that might work once or twice here or there, but like consistently over 60 arrows, 90 arrows, 100, etc. for an entire season, that's not going to work. My special flavor of target panic that I had was the pin when it's set in the center. It wasn't doing the same thing every time. It was just all over the place. It was, a nice little figure eight to straight up and down, red line to red line, left, right, all over the place. Then it was blue line to blue line. And I tried to do everything that anybody tells you to do, to get the bow to settle down. Try to pull harder on the back wall. Well, pulling harder on the back wall, all that did was force the bow all over the place and make it even more erratic. And then because I'm pulling so hard on the back wall and the pin won't sit in the center, now my release hand doesn't work. My brain's telling my right hand not to work the release because we're nowhere near the center and our job is to shoot it in the center. And now I'm fighting not only aiming the bow, but I'm also fighting my release, and now I'm fighting my brain to tell, my hands and my body what to do, and nothing was going right. I couldn't make a good shot if I had to. I could probably make a bad shot. They were all terrible shots. Shot a lot of 8s, shot a 7, shot somebody else's target twice. It was just chaotic, trash, and the thing that was going in my head the whole time was, this is target panic.
I got a monster case of target panic.
And it's okay, because what I do on my actual job, working NASCAR, pitting race cars, I've done it for 14 years. This is my 15th season. And if you think that I've never gone into a race before and had that feeling on the pit crew side of it, you're insane. It happens to the best of us. Eventually, everybody gets it. Whether you're playing golf and you get the shanks, in baseball, they call it the slump. In pit stops, we call it the yips. And in archery, it's just called target panic. It's the same thing, just different names. It's a mental blockage that's not allowing you to shoot the arrow in the center. The bow was great because I had shot it well the week before, and the weeks before that, nothing changed except for my mental state, like what I was thinking about. No longer was I worried about making one good shot. I was worried about the outcome of the tournament, or I was worried about not making bad shots. And there's a difference between not wanting to make bad shots and telling yourself you're not going to make bad shots, but you're going to fire that arrow anyways. And that's what I was doing. So like I said in that video, I immediately knew what was going on, and I knew I just had to eat it for the next 3.5 hours, and it was a disaster. Like I said, nothing I did. I tried pulling harder on the bow. That didn't work. I tried being really soft in my shoulder, ended up having a few creep fires because I had such high holding weight. You come off the back wall a little bit, you flinch, that arrow's gone. What else? I tried punching the trigger. I got to a point where I was like, you know what, I'm just going to put the dot in the center and slap this thing off, and hopefully it hits the center, and didn't work at all. Now, immediately afterwards, me if you've known me, like I'm not really too worked up about it. So I made jokes where I was on Instagram and I'm typing in like Google, like how to cure target panic, right? And then I have all of you guys, maybe not you, but other people sliding into my DMs like, have you heard of Joel Turner, Shot IQ? Have you read Ace Coleman's book on how to cure target panic? Have you shot John Dudley's Silverback release? And I appreciate the wanting to reach out and help, but there's the turnaround time from Lancaster to Vegas was a 3-day window. I don't think any of those resources would have done much help for me in that moment. Maybe long term, like this summer, I'll get into the Shot IQ course, or I'll read Ace Coleman's book, or I might play around with like different releases, or maybe try something else. And like I said, I was going through it. I knew what was happening. I've been in that situation before in other athletic endeavors, so I know what was happening. It's a mental block. It's a block inside your brain that's not allowing you to do the thing you want to do. So I knew as soon as I got home, there's a couple things I wanted to make, like very small tweaks on the bow to hopefully make it a little bit more forgiving in those pressure situations. But I knew the first thing I needed to do was clear this mental blockage and get out of my own head. So fortunately for me, come home, like I have the perfect resource at home. My wife, Crystal, that's what she does. She does a lot of breath work. She does a lot of mindset stuff and how to put yourself in better mindsets and clearing a lot of these blockages. Talk about some of the insecurities that I had in those moments, like the things I was feeling and how it made me feel, and doing all the stuff that like nobody really wants to do. But like, to be honest with you, like I said, I've done this in NASCAR for 14 years. Like, this is the kind of stuff that has helped me be super successful at what I do, changing tires. There's no reason it can't be the same thing to help me be successful at shooting a bow and fixing the mental blockage that I had. Now, I went to Vegas and I set goals for myself, and they weren't super lofty goals. I didn't think I was going to go and shoot 300 rounds in a row, shoot a 900. No, my goal was to go there and not shoot any 8s. Every tournament I had done, the 2 Lancasters and the 1 Vegas before, I'd shot 8s in all 3 of those tournaments. Hell, I shot 0s at Lancaster. So my goal was to go there and shoot 90 of my best shots. Now, are they going to be 90 perfect shots? No. I know that going into it, because just where I'm at, right? In this whole archery journey and the indoor stuff, like I'm not going to make 90 perfect shots. But can I make 90 of my best shots? Yes. Some of those are 9s. Some of those were my best shots in that moment. Like, it just is what it is. Like, I understood that. Going into it, I had better expectations for myself, and I was able to execute on those every day. And that was like checking a box in my head, like, hey dude, you did it. Built a little bit of confidence today. So clearing the mental stuff, really working on the mental game, that was something I put a lot of emphasis on in between Lancaster and Vegas, and that helped out a ton. All right, so now we're going to talk about the sexy stuff, all the stuff that you guys want to know, like what tweaks did I make to my bow to make me shoot way better in a 3-day span, going from shooting, I think I shot a 292 in my first 30 arrows at Lancaster, and X's count as 11, and at Vegas, I shot a 293 my first day. Things I made, the adjustments and tweaks that I made to my bow, the little special sauce that I added to it. I don't think there's anything that you can do that's going to like fix your target panic, switching releases, doing stuff to your bow. None of that stuff, it's all quick fixes. But there is a time and place, and there are things you can do to your bow to make it more forgiving. The one thing I realized at Lancaster was I felt really overdrawn. I felt like I really had to force myself into the back wall. So the first thing I did when I got home was I shortened my draw length 1/4 of an inch, checked my timing. I was like a 1/2 twist at a time, which is marginal, if anything. Put my bow back in time, shorten my draw length 1/4 of an inch. I like it with the Verdict, or at least all the elites, where you can just make those 1/4 inch adjustments on the mod where you're not having to twist cables and strings up to get there. So I like that. So I was able to shorten it 1/4 of an inch, and I felt way stronger on the back wall. I felt way more powerful. I felt like I didn't have to pull as hard. Once I got there, I could just settle into my shot. And that was a huge help. The next thing I did was I took about 4 pounds of holding weight off of the bow. I had liked shooting the higher holding weight, but I found, and I kind of knew this in the back of my head, but can't really confirm it until you go to a tournament like this and realize it. But like, there were some nights at league night, like if my hold got a little bit too long, if it got past like 4 or 5 seconds, which is long for me, that extra holding weight was really starting to make my bow jittery. Like, I went from these nice sweeping figure 8s on the target to all of a sudden now I'm bouncing around and getting really jittery. So it was almost a race against myself to get that shot off before I started to like jitter a little bit. Dropped it down to like 15 pounds of holding weight, which is very similar to my hunting bow. So that was a comfortable weight for me to hold because it's something I've been shooting all summer long. So it was consistent. And in taking holding weight off the bow, I took a little bit of weight off my front bar, 2 ounces off my front bar, and I think I took 4 off my back bar, maybe 5. But taking a little bit of weight off the bars, what it did was it really allowed me to, again, not use a lot of muscle to try to hold the bow up, especially with a little less holding weight. Having a little less weight on the bow seemed to help. And it really, I was using the least amount of energy to hold the bow and aim it as possible, which made me be way more relaxed in my shot. And because I was way more relaxed, the pin was moving around a lot less. Because the pin was moving around a lot less, mentally I was way more comfortable and way more felt like I was in control and I was going to allow these shots to happen instead of trying to like really force it into the center. So that's 3 adjustments I made on the bow. And the last one I made is really just a negligence, an oversight on my part. Last year I shot a 6X lens. When I started this year, I started shooting a 7. I really like that sight picture. It's just a little bit closer. I can kind of focus in just a little bit more, but it wasn't showing a ton of movement for me, especially where my sight is. On the bow, it's in pretty close, so the magnification is not as amplified the further it gets away. So I felt it's almost like a 6.5. I got to playing around with an 8X lens about 2 weeks before Lancaster, and I shot it good one day, and I left it in my bow, and I forgot about it. And then I shot it good for the next couple days, and I just assumed it was a 7. The higher the power of the lens you're going to get, you're going to see a lot more movement on the target face. And I think that was part of my problem, seeing all of that pin movement on the face, because it's so amplified, really just set my brain into that spiral where then all of a sudden I'm trying to do all these things to get it to settle down, and it's not. Changed that back out, went back to the 7, immediately saw a way steadier sight picture, which mentally really calmed me down a lot and allowed me to shoot the bow like not stress-free, but pretty stress-free, where I was just going out there and executing shots and really not forcing it. So I made 4 tiny adjustments, a 1 power scope change, a little bit of weight off the bars, a little bit less holding weight, and took a 1/4 inch out of my draw length. All right, if you guys noticed in that video, I also made a adjustment to my release. Now, I didn't change anything on the release, like on the thumb barrel. I didn't change, the force it takes to activate the barrel or the travel on the barrel. But I did go from a 4-finger back down to a 3-finger. And part of that reason wasn't because I don't think, I wasn't getting frozen on the 4-finger, or it didn't feel good. But when I shortened my draw length up that 1/4 inch with the 4-finger release, I felt like it rolled my shoulder a little bit forward because my pinky is up on the release. And because of that, I felt like I was a little scrunched into the bow. But then dropping that pinky over and going back to a more traditional 3-finger, I felt like I was able to get my shoulder back and really open up and really work the release the way I want to work the release. Get my hands on it and then just try to expand my hand and let the thumb drag over the button and let the arrow go off. And did I make 90 great surprise shots at Vegas? No. But did I probably make 60, 70, 65? Yeah, absolutely. There was a couple in there that I probably forced because the draw length, I was getting a little long on the hold or whatever reason. I'm still not mentally, I wasn't completely mentally clear, but I was in a much better place where even though I made a bad shot, not a bad shot, but just I didn't shoot a 10, I shot a couple 9s. I didn't get in my head about it. I was like, you know what, that one's gone, not worried about it. I'm not qualifying for the shoot-off anyways, so we might as well just go ahead from here and just continue to make good shots and not really care about the score. Obviously, I want to shoot well, but if you're shooting the pro line and you shoot 2 9s in your first 3 ends on day 1, you're done. You're done for the weekend. You're just there to enjoy it and have fun. So in racing, we measure everything down to the hundredths of an inch or thousandths of an inch. We measure pit stop times down to the 100th of a second. So a lot of what we do in our sport and a lot of the way sports are kind of going these days, it's a lot of it is analytics driven. It's a lot of it, it's getting data, and then you're using that data to confirm what you're doing athletically. Am I making the same shot every single time? Well, me shooting my bow at my house, I'm like, yeah, I'm a robot. I make the same shot every single time. Well, what I got was the Mantis X8. I reached out to Mantis and I said, hey, I really think this tool can really help me, going forward in my archery career and my indoor and having success shooting target archery, especially indoor, because I am very analytics driven. I like using the data to confirm that what I'm doing is correct or is wrong and how to change it. But I can use that data that I'm getting from that mantis to be able to track my shot and overlay, hundreds of shots on top of each other. Am I doing the same thing every single time? Well, okay, I knew arrow 6 was bad, so my third arrow on N2 was a wild 9. I can go back and watch the data, watch the actual shot, how it tracks, and see that, yeah, the reason why you did that is because you jerked the bow way to the left as the shot was going off. So here's an example of it. This is me drawing coming into target, moving over a little to the left, making this nice little sweeping figure 8 around the X. And then the shot should go off right about now. Bang. Yep, shot goes off, and you can see where the bow goes afterwards. It's all the stuff that I talked about earlier in this video. Mentally clearing the blockage and understanding what was happening, and that it is a mental problem more than it is a physical problem. Making a couple adjustments to my bow that made the bow a little bit more forgiving when I made bad shots, but it also made the bow a little bit more forgiving, so mentally I had a better sight picture and I wasn't as panicked, and I didn't get into that spiral where it's not in the center, and then now the release won't work because it's not in the center, and now I'm pulling harder and I'm doing all these things, and then I end up punching it anyways and shooting an 8. Making the bow a little bit more forgiving definitely helped out my mental game. And then having this tool like the Mantis, the X8, to actually track and watch the data to see exactly what I'm doing, and being able to differentiate good shots from bad shots, like how I drew the bow, how I came in on target, my holds, all of that kind of stuff, I found to be super beneficial because that is the type of person I am. Using those 3 things, that's really how I kind of got to shoot better in 3 days, getting ready for Vegas. And I think Vegas is almost a bigger stage than Lancaster. I thought it was a great experience. I learned a lot at Vegas, or a lot at Lancaster, and I'm really glad I had that experience, because if I didn't have that experience, I might have just kept going for a couple of years, and who knows, the target panic could have happened when I had a big bull in front of me, or a lifetime buck in front of me. You just don't know when it's going to creep up, especially if you're not being diligent on keeping it at bay. But now that I know what that feels like and how bad it feels and how I never want to feel that again, I know now the work that I'm going to put in is going to be exponentially more intense, more important, more focused, and more driven to make sure that doesn't happen again. So if you found something useful in this video, drop a comment down below, let me know, because I think everybody goes through this a little bit differently, and just talking about my experience and what I did to get me to where I'm at to start this journey on fixing this target panic, I think it's huge, right? So you never know what the catalyst is going to be to get you there, or what the catalyst is going to be to get you out of it. So hopefully maybe something that I said in this is something that you can take and try, and it's going to help you out. Thanks for watching this video, guys. Hope you liked it. Catch you in the next one.